So for my first audition, right, for the It's a Wonderful Life audition, I read that audition, the notice, I read it twice, and then I handed it to my wife and I asked her to read it just to make sure.
Hmm.
It said, bring two pieces of opposing contemporary music for your audition to sing.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know much about It's a Wonderful Life, but I don't think it's a musical. Why would I need this? And
Hmm.
I was not familiar with the vernacular of audition notices and stuff. I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I should do this audition. I really want to be a part of this, and this is a great opportunity. So I'm gonna do it anyway. But so my wife gave me my first singing lesson on the way to the audition, and I chose as my two songs "What Makes You Beautiful" by One Republic and and I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. So I walk into the audition. There's the director and the dramaturg, right? They're sitting, and then the director is like, all right, give us your monologue whenever you're ready. And I'm like, monologue? I thought we were supposed to sing two pieces of opposing contemporary music. and and he said, well, just give us whatever you prepared. And so I started to sing What Makes You Beautiful by One Republic. And I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. And they're cringing. I'm watching them as I'm singing. They're cringing the entire time that
My
I'm singing.
gosh.
And he's like, all right. And I was like, um, now that you mentioned it, though, I do have a monologue memorized from acting class. Let me go ahead and do that for you. So I gave him something, and then it just so happens right after that he asked me if I knew what a radio show was, and I was like, nope. And he says, well, a radio show is where people used to put on these kind of shows for the radio, and people would play multiple voices and everything. And he says, and then he asked me to read different characters with different voices and everything. Then he started to perk up, and I was invited to the callback, and I was eventually given the role of George Bailey. But when we actually started shows, I was sharing this story of my audition with the cast, and I asked one of them, I said, did I tell you the story of my audition? And he was like, no, but I heard about it. And I was like, what did you hear? I thought to myself, what did you hear about it? But I didn't have the courage to ask him what he heard about it, because I was like, oh, word
Did
got around about
did
my
you have like a backtrack, or did you just go a cappella singing
I would I would acapella.